All right, well, there's our Governor Hogan, so we'll be quiet and listening to him.
We now have 288 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in our state. Over the past weekend, we saw a 678% increase in positive cases. We now have cases in 21 out of 24 of Maryland's jurisdictions. Sadly, a Montgomery County woman in her 40s became the third Marylander so far to have died as a result of the coronavirus. There are now 635 cases in the capital region of Maryland, D.C., and Virginia, 32,000 cases across America, and more than 342,000 cases around the globe. Over the past several weeks, we have taken some swift, decisive, unprecedented actions in our state in order to slow the spread of COVID-19 and to save lives. And I just want to take a moment to thank the overwhelming majority of Marylanders who have taken this situation seriously and who have remained at home, avoided crowds, and practiced much-needed social distancing. Unfortunately, many people are still not taking it seriously. There were crowds of people visiting the cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C., and large gatherings on the beach in Ocean City and on the boardwalk and at many of the county and local parks across our state. Let me repeat once again, as strongly as I possibly can, if you are engaged in this kind of activity, you are breaking the law and you are literally endangering the lives of your family, your friends, and your fellow citizens. Because of this irresponsible and reckless behavior, beginning today, even further and more aggressive enforcement actions will be taken by state and local authorities to disperse these gatherings. In the continuing effort to protect the health and safety of all Marylanders, we are also taking immediate additional mitigation and social distancing actions. This morning, I have enacted an executive order which closes all non-essential businesses, organizations, establishments, and facilities in Maryland effective at 5 o'clock today. In addition to those businesses which have already been closed by our prior executive orders, this new executive order closes all those businesses not covered by federal guidelines, which were issued Thursday by the federal government as defined as critical infrastructure sectors, including healthcare and food and agriculture, energy, public works, community-based government operations, and the defense and industrial-based sectors, law enforcement, public safety, transportation, critical manufacturing, financial services, and water and wastewater. Let me be clear. We are not issuing or ordering a shelter-in-place directive or forcing people to stay home. However, we are telling all Marylanders to follow all of the directives we've already issued and to follow state law against crowds of more than 10 people. And we are telling you, unless you have an essential reason to leave your house, then you should stay in your homes. Today's actions of closing non-essential businesses are absolutely necessary to protect the health of Marylanders and to save lives. This is an exceptionally challenging time for Marylanders and for all Americans. And that includes those who are out of work and our small business community. Our first priority is saving the lives of thousands of Marylanders. And while we are fighting this unprecedented worldwide pandemic, at the same time, we're also facing another huge battle against the potential of tremendous economic harm. And we must tackle both of these problems aggressively and simultaneously. Both of these battles are going to take all of us at the federal, state, and local levels and the private sector rising to this challenge and working together. Over the last several weeks, governors in both parties from all across America have come together and pushed for a more robust and aggressive federal response. As chairman of the National Governors Association, we submitted several priorities to the President and Vice President last Thursday based on all of the important priorities of the governors. While we've seen some progress on some of these requests, including the invoking of Title 32 so that FEMA can cover the cost of the National Guard's relief missions and giving us the flexibility, and some progress on increasing efforts to ramp up the production of and delivery of PPEs and necessary equipment, and on extending the deadline for the 2020 census. We're still waiting for additional action on Title 32 for all of the states, and still pushing for the extension of the Real ID, and we're still pushing very hard for major economic stimulus and for monies to go directly to the states so that we can help these businesses and individuals that are impacted, and there's still no action on that. We're going to raise these issues again on our call with the President and Vice President this afternoon. I've spoken several times over the past couple of days with U.S. Labor Secretary Jean Scalia about helping unemployed and displaced workers. Last week, Congress passed a second stimulus package, which included paid sick leave and paid family and medical leave for workers, enhanced unemployment insurance, and enhanced food security programs. I also spoke with Secretary Scalia about the availability of $100 million in dislocated worker grants in response to this health emergency. In addition, I urged both the White House and the Congress to include in their stimulus package this direct aid to the states who are on the front line of this crisis. Over the weekend, I spoke with Vice President Pence, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, and the leaders of both the Senate and the House. And on Friday, I spoke with our entire federal delegation that represents Maryland about the importance of this much-needed assistance. The package currently being debated includes a $300 billion emergency economic relief plan to help small businesses make payroll and cover expenses. This legislation would provide cash flow assistance through federally guaranteed loans to employers to maintain their payroll during this emergency. This will help workers to remain employed and help small businesses to ramp back up after this crisis. As I've said repeatedly, governors are leading on the front lines of this crisis, and we need Congress to work together to support our efforts. This is no time for partisan dysfunction. It's going to take all of us working together in order to save thousands of lives. This afternoon, I'll be leading another one of these teleconferences with the President and Vice President with all the nation's governors. We're going to continue to press for further coordination and further resources from the federal government. This will be our 5th such teleconference with the governors. All of the federal assistance is critically needed, and the efforts so far are appreciated. but the states continue to need more assistance and more action. However, Maryland is not just going to rely on or wait for action from the federal government. As we have time and time again, we will continue to lead and continue to take action in this crisis. 3 weeks ago, I submitted a supplemental budget to provide an additional immediate $10 million in resources to prepare the state's response to COVID-19. 2 weeks ago, I submitted emergency legislation to tap into the state's rainy day fund in order to respond to this crisis. Thursday, I signed emergency legislation into law, which provides relief to Maryland workers by allowing them to collect unemployment insurance if their business has been closed due to COVID-19, if they've been quarantined, or if a family member has been quarantined. Also on Thursday, we were successful in receiving a statewide disaster declaration from the Small Business Administration so that small businesses in our state that have been affected by the coronavirus can immediately apply directly for low-interest federal disaster loans to help cover the costs, including payroll bills and accounts payable, with long-term payments stretching up to 30 years. Today, we are taking additional major steps to help support the state's small businesses and workers. We're immediately launching a $175 million comprehensive business relief program here in Maryland. This will bring together resources from two of our key state agencies, the Maryland Department of Commerce and the Maryland Department of Labor, to help hard-pressed Marylanders and small businesses and help them get through this difficult period. Our unemployment insurance program is ramped up and is dedicated to helping employees and employers who've been affected by COVID-19. If you've been laid off, you can immediately file a claim by phone or email or by submitting an application online. Unlike other states, Maryland has no waiting period whatsoever, so claims can be filed right away, immediately. And we are launching the COVID-19 Layoff Aversion Fund. As of today, an additional $7 million is available to help small businesses retain their employees during this crisis. Maryland small businesses can apply for up to $50,000 in flexible funding to help continue operations and keep their employees on the payroll. These resources are available right now at businessexpress.maryland.gov/coronavirus. Through the Maryland Department of Commerce, today we are introducing the Maryland Small Business COVID-19 Relief Fund, a $75 million fund that will provide working capital to small businesses and nonprofits with fewer than 50 employees that have lost revenue due to this pandemic. These funds can be used by small businesses to pay their employees, their suppliers, their rent, and to cover critical operating costs to help them stay in business. We're also establishing a $50 million Maryland Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant Fund, which will provide not long-term loans, but direct, immediate grants of up to $10,000 to small businesses that have lost revenue because of the coronavirus. We're also immediately developing a $5 million fund to provide incentives to Maryland small businesses to manufacture masks, personal protective equipment, and other supplies to immediately help meet the critical demands of our healthcare workers. We are deploying another $40 million in emergency money through all of our existing commerce finance programs to specifically target assistance to Maryland small businesses to help them survive this COVID-19 crisis and to help them preserve the jobs of their employees. Today, I also issued an executive order to protect families from price gouging. This covers all essential household items and commodities. Retailers who attempt to exploit this crisis for profit and gain will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. My administration is marshaling every tool in the arsenal of public health to combat and slow the spread of this pandemic. A week ago, we launched our plan to increase hospital capacity by an additional 6,000 beds in order to meet the demand created by the escalating spread of this virus. Phase 1 of this surge plan has already made 900 beds immediately available. We expect an additional 1,400 beds by early April. Plans are underway as we speak to establish a field hospital at the Baltimore Convention Center as an alternate care site at the adjacent Hilton Hotel in Baltimore City. The Maryland National Guard will be setting up these sites in coordination with the Army Corps of Engineers. These will be operated through a joint partnership with the University of Maryland Medical System and Johns Hopkins. At my direction, FEMA will be delivering 250 hospital bed packages and everything associated with them in the coming days. We also worked with the University of Maryland Medical System to reopen the Laurel Hospital, which will make an additional 135 hospital beds available in short order. The Maryland National Guard, in partnership with the Maryland Department of Health and the Prince George's County Health Department, is establishing a pilot coronavirus drive-through screening location at FedEx Field in Landover. We also have 5 vehicle emissions inspection centers ready to immediately open as drive-through screening and testing centers as soon as the necessary testing kits, PPEs, and lab capability becomes available. Today, I have issued orders to authorize a fast-track process which will bring more testing capability directly here in Maryland without waiting for federal action or FDA approval. This will dramatically shorten a process which would have taken several months. Healthcare providers are now required to prioritize tests for hospitalized patients, and healthcare providers will cease elective procedures to free up capacity. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the countless healthcare professionals, the doctors and the nurses, the first responders who are on the front lines every day, working around the clock to help keep us safe. And I want to thank the soldiers and airmen of the Maryland National Guard. We deployed these citizen soldiers to assist with humanitarian missions all across the state, and they never hesitate to answer the call to help their fellow Marylanders. And I want to thank all of the small businesses who had to close their doors during these uncertain times. I can assure you that these actions, while incredibly difficult financially, will save the lives of thousands of your fellow Marylanders. And we will have your backs in the weeks ahead, and we will do everything we can to help get you back on your feet and to help all of your employees recover. Finally, I want to sincerely thank the people of Maryland who have helped their fellow Marylanders just by staying home, and those who have volunteered their time to distribute school meals, who have picked up groceries for an older neighbor, or given blood to the Red Cross. And I encourage all Marylanders to visit our Maryland Unites website to find out what you can do to help your neighbors and your communities. And I also ask that you keep giving to your local churches who are not able to pass the collection baskets on Sundays, and to all the other volunteer organizations, all of whom are desperately in need of your donations so that they can continue to help others in our community. And to my fellow Marylanders, let me say that I know how incredibly difficult this is on each and every one of you. There is a great deal of fear and anxiety. And the truth is that none of us really know how bad it's going to get or how long it's going to last. But I can promise you that there are a great many dedicated people doing some tremendous things, working around the clock and doing their very best to help keep the people of Maryland safe. And we are all in this together, and we will, together we will get through this. God bless each and every one of you, and may God continue to bless the great state of Maryland. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our Commerce Secretary, Kelly Schulz, who will provide some more detail on our comprehensive relief program for Maryland small businesses and workers. Kelly?
Thank you, Governor, and good morning. Coronavirus is really presenting a series of challenges that we'll be facing together in the coming months. We know this is frightening. We know that people are not just worried about their health and the health of their loved ones. We know you are worrying about your jobs and whether the stores will be open and about taking care of your families. We're doing everything we can, and we're balancing the need to slow the spread of the virus with the need for businesses to keep operating. That's why we're encouraging restaurants to continue providing carry-out services, for example. We have also worked closely with our small business community and our federal partners to ensure Maryland was improved for the Small Business Administration's assistance. Small businesses across the state can apply for disaster relief funding through the SBA. That's an important resource, but we do know that we'll need to do much more than that. If we do not act to support our business community during this emergency, then the economic risk to our industries, our small business employers, and above all, the livelihoods of Maryland residents will linger, even after we hit the downside of the curve and the pressure on our healthcare system eases. Our small businesses must survive, and our people must have jobs they can return to when things return to normal. So we're acting now to ensure that. Commerce's 2 new emergency relief funds will help our small businesses and nonprofits weather the storm. The first, the Maryland Small Business COVID-19 Emergency Relief Grant Fund, offers up to $10,000 to businesses with 50 or fewer employers. There will also be funding that will be set aside specifically for our nonprofit communities. These grants can provide working capital to cover payroll, rent or mortgage payments, utilities, or other expenses that are incurred during ordinary operations. The Maryland Small Business COVID-19 Emergency Relief Loan Fund is our second program, which offers low-interest loans of up to $50,000 to businesses with fewer than 50 employees. We are offering that at a 0% interest rate for the first 12 months. These loans can be used to cover the same sort of regular operating costs, such as payroll, rent, utilities, etc. I'm very pleased to say that in the past week or so, seems longer than that actually, many of our partners in the business community have come forward and asked how they can help. We are absolutely grateful for that. If you are a business that has important supplies that you can sell to the state that may help, please send a message to resource.mema@maryland.gov to let us know. There is one critical area in particular where our industry partners can step up and participate. The immediate public health concern of COVID-19 is being amplified by a nationwide shortage of the personal protection equipment our doctors and hospitals badly need. As Governor Hogan said, there is an opportunity to work with our manufacturing partners and small businesses to help to meet that need. To that end, Commerce is introducing a $5 million Maryland COVID-19 Emergency Relief Manufacturing Fund to incentivize the production of personal protective equipment such as face masks, ventilators, and other equipment. The state may purchase this equipment, or we may connect manufacturers with buyers who need these vital resources. Commerce's industry experts are working with our partners in the industry, including the Maryland Manufacturing Extension Partnership, the Regional Manufacturing Institute of Maryland, and the Maryland Manufacturing Advisory Board, to identify those companies right now that may be able to meet the needs of our healthcare industry. Please visit our Business Express website for all of that information, which has a wealth of that information and more that can be consistently updated for your reassurance. You can find information about all of the ways Maryland is helping businesses cope with COVID-19, including our new programs, and we'll have more information about the manufacturing program available to you by the end of the week. I assure you our teams are working around the clock, as the governor had stated, and they're all working together. We are in uncharted waters now. The situation is unlike anything we've seen in our lifetimes, but we will, as the governor said, get through this, and we will be doing it together. We've heard from many, many businesses that are frightened and unsure of what to do. They want to keep serving their customers, and they want to keep paying their employees. They want to still be here when COVID-19 is fading only into our memories. To our business community, I want to say that these programs at the Department of Commerce and our partnering agencies can help you get through this. We know this is a difficult time for you, and we are here to work hard on your behalf and to support you. And now I would like to turn this over to Secretary of Labor, Tiffany Robinson.
Thank you, Secretary Schultz, and thank you, Governor Hogan. And good morning. In addition to the programs being offered by the Maryland Department of Commerce, the Maryland Department of Labor has launched the new COVID-19 Layoff Aversion Fund. Starting today, as the governor mentioned, a total of $7 million is available to support our state's small businesses and workers who are undergoing financial stress because of the coronavirus. Small businesses can apply now for up to $50,000 in very flexible funding to help continue operations and keep Marylanders working. All businesses who apply will receive a response within just 2 business days of submitting a simple application. And our team at the Maryland Department of Labor is ready and available to provide technical assistance during your application process. As the governor mentioned, we're talking to our federal partners almost daily. And my department is seeking as much as possible of the $100 million in dislocated worker grants recently announced by the U.S. Department of Labor. This will allow us to expand this program even further. But we know how important it is to provide immediate relief during this rapidly evolving state of emergency. So we're cutting through all the red tape in order to get our businesses the help that they need right now. With these flexible layoff aversion funds, businesses can do countless things, such as purchase remote access equipment and software to allow employees to work from home, sanitize their facilities to protect employees that are still providing essential services on site, pay for liability insurance needed to change business models, like previous dine-in only restaurants who are now delivering food to the community. This fund can also provide up to $50,000 to supplement a small business's payroll costs if they're enrolled in Labor's work-sharing unemployment insurance program. The WorkShare program provides an additional alternative to layoffs by allowing employers to reduce the hours of work for their employees, who can then collect unemployment insurance benefits to replace a portion of their wages. Unfortunately for some, however, employment has already become a reality during these difficult times. So I want to be very clear that the Maryland Department of Labor's unemployment insurance program is fully operational and remains dedicated to helping with employers and employees who have been affected by COVID-19. If you've been laid off, you can file a claim immediately by phone, email, or submitting an application online. Like the governor said, Maryland does not have a waiting period like other states do. We've expanded our call center hours, added servers to increase online application speed and capacity, and created dedicated email addresses to provide better customer service for Marylanders. And no matter when or how you file a claim, any eligible Marylander will be paid benefits back through the very first day after they were laid off. As the governor mentioned, we've expanded eligibility as well to make sure everyone is covered during this state of emergency. Maryland is allowing workers who have not been terminated to collect unemployment insurance if their employer has been closed due to COVID-19, if they've been quarantined, or if they're caring for a family member who is quarantined. And in light of the current market conditions and the need for social distancing, Labor has also temporarily waived all work search requirements for unemployment insurance benefit recipients. Unprecedented actions are being taken right now to save the lives of Marylanders. So we just want everyone to know that the Maryland Department of Labor, in conjunction with all the other state agencies, are doing everything in our power to support and protect our small businesses and our workforce. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have with us Fran Phillips from the Maryland Health Department and Major General Timothy Gowan from the National Guard. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions or any of them. Yes, sir. Luke.
As you're making the announcements, I got 3 texts mainly. Carryout, which I heard were good, liquor stores, and daycares. Are those as well exempted by this order?
Yeah, those are there are a whole lot of businesses that are exempted. Basically, there are ones that we already took action on. There's a long list of federally protected ones that are considered essential, and we can get you the list of all of those. We'll be putting that out probably with the press release later. But many businesses are still open. Everybody in the supply chain to make sure that we get all of the necessary goods and services out to everybody. But it affects a wider array of businesses.
Governor, are you concerned with the numbers idea of how many employees you expect to be out of work as a result of this new order, and can the state unemployment insurance fund handle this uptake?
I'm not sure if anybody has an estimated number at this point, but that's obviously something we're going to be very concerned about and taking a look at as other federal leaders.
Governor,
excuse me?
what does this mean for daycare?
So daycare is covered by a different order, and that's being handled by the Maryland Department of Education, and we've put out pretty clear directives on that already, but may be taking further action and further explanations on that either tomorrow or the next day. But we did that last Thursday, I think, on daycare.
Governor, grocery stores, box clubs, that kind of thing, seeing large amounts of people, is there some kind of guidance that the state can give to not allow so many people into one store to keep within the social distancing guidelines?
Yeah, I think we still want to abide by the social distancing and not have crowds of people, and I think we can work on trying to limit those crowds. We've asked the local law enforcement officials to work with those big box stores to help on crowd control, but we absolutely want to make sure that those stores stay open so that they can get people the essential things that they need, especially food and the other necessary items. That's critical. They are a critical part of the supply chain. Right.
At this point, do you think this is as far as it's going to go? Are you able to sort of see any light at the end of the tunnel here with the actions, with the increase that we're seeing in Maryland, which is not?
So great question, Brad. And quite honestly, if you just look at listen to all the experts at the federal level and the local level, nobody has the perfect crystal ball to say exactly when are we going to peak and are the actions going to help or not. We believe we were among the first states in the country to take many of the actions. I think we were one of the first to declare a state of emergency, one of the first to close the schools, one of the first to close the bars and restaurants, one of the first to take action on social distancing. We've been very aggressive. We're hoping that these actions will help us not be as badly effective as some other states or to help slow the curve, but we also know we have not yet hit the peak. We know that the numbers are going to dramatically rise as testing increases, and so we don't want to unnecessarily alarm people, but had we taken no action, we know that the numbers would be dramatically worse. And the question is, these actions that we have taken, how much good are they going to do? And we're hoping that they are going to stop tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people from being infected in Maryland and hopefully save the lives of thousands of Marylanders.
Governor, we're having 45, 50 cases a day the last couple of days. Are we doing enough? Is this what the flattening curve looks like?
Most of the increases are now because we're dramatically ramping up the number of tests. So a week or so ago, it was 50 tests a day, went up to 250 tests a day, up to 500 tests a day. So you're seeing more numbers because we're testing more people. That doesn't necessarily mean more of a spread, but the numbers are going to go up as we test more people.
How many more tests do you expect by the end of the week?
Maybe, I'm not sure Fran has an answer on that, but we're pushing as fast as we can with the private labs, with the federal government, with our teams here at Hopkins, and the state lab is going to continue to do the ones for our investigative cases on the people that we're tracking. This person, who did they come in contact with when we have a known case? The private sector and all these other things are going to handle all the other folks from the hospitals. And that is increasing, but not nearly at a fast enough rate, which is the general frustration of all of us. That's what you're hearing about. We're going to talk more about that this afternoon, I think, with our federal partners.
What would you like to hear from the White House today?
I'd like to hear that we're making more progress on these needs on testing, on the PPEs, on ventilators, on masks, and I'd like to hear that they've taken action on the 5 priority requests of the governors from last Thursday.
Governor, there have been calls for additional protections in prisons, specifically for the staff who work inside, but also for the inmates. What are there any measures being implemented there?
So our Department of Corrections and Public Safety are taking measures, as is every other agency.
Governor Hogan talking in Annapolis there. You can hear our Tom Fitzgerald asking some of the questions as well. The Q&A session is about to wrap up, but you got a good taste of what the governor has been talking about as far as new actions and restrictions that will be put in place now in Maryland as of 5 o'clock this afternoon. All non-essential businesses will have to close, and the governor just gave a pretty good recap of what that means. He says the supply chain will not be interrupted, talking about other types of businesses here, including health care, food, your grocery stores, government work, public safety, financial services, your banks, etc., would have to stay open. That is what is deemed essential, and the governor's office saying that they will put out a complete list of what they consider to be the essential types of work by close of business today. He also talked about the number of tests, as we talked about this before this press conference started, about the large increase in the number of tests that they are making available for people to get tested in the state of Maryland. And because of that, I believe he said it was up to 500 a day. He said because of that, these numbers are going to continue to rise. They're going to be aware of more of these cases. So they haven't even, the state of Maryland hasn't reached the peak yet when it comes to the coronavirus. He also talked about those stores that you mentioned that would remain open, Steve. He's asking local law enforcement in the different areas to assist in making sure that they have crowd control when it comes to people going into these stores and businesses to get the essentials that they need to function on a daily basis.
Governor, he covered a lot of ground, as we know. He talked about everything from not forgetting your churches because they're not able to pass the plate, to thanking all of those people who have to continue to go into work and keep all of us safe, but also relief for small businesses and also those laid off during this time. So a lot to unpack from this press conference. Is not even finished yet.
He also didn't mince any words in talking about the people that continue to go out and not adhere to social distancing guidelines. He said they're going to be more aggressive in making sure that people are doing that. And he said point blank, if you go out, you are breaking the law and you are putting your loved ones and fellow Marylanders' lives at risk. Right.
Well, a complete wrap-up on the 5 at 4 p.m., which we're really just a little over 4 hours away from that right now. And, of course, updates throughout the day on fox5dc.com and all of our digital channels and streams. We thank you for being with us once again this morning. We'll see you bright and early at 4 a.m. tomorrow.